Have you ever thought about the incredible talents we've lost to AIDS? Artists who not only entertained us, but also broke barriers and changed the world? Let's journey through the lives of these remarkable individuals. From the groundbreaking model, Gia Karangi, to the soulful singer Sylvester. Let's talk about the top 22 gay actors who have lost their lives to HIV/AIDS. Anthony Perkins. Do you remember Norman Bates from Psycho? Anthony Perkins' chilling portrayal made him a Hollywood icon, but few knew the complex personal life he led and the tragic battle with AIDS he faced at the end of his life. Born into a theatrical family, Perkins' acting career began promisingly with an Oscar nomination for his role in Friendly Persuasion. But it was Psycho that cemented his legacy, making him synonymous with the psychologically tormented Bates. However, like many actors of his time, Perkins kept his personal life, particularly his bisexuality, hidden. He had relationships with both men and women, but struggled with his identity in an era when being openly gay could end a Hollywood career. In 1973, he married photographer Barry Berenson, and the couple had two sons. In the late 1980s, Perkins was diagnosed with HIV, but he kept his condition private until his death. On September 12, 1992, he passed away from AIDS-related pneumonia at the age of 60. His death was a shock to many, but it was also a stark reminder of the personal battles so many in Hollywood faced during a time of intense stigma. Klaus Nomi. Have you ever wondered what it would be like if an alien landed on Earth and became a pop star? Well, that's kind of what happened with Klaus Nomi, the avant-garde performer who shook up the New York art scene in the late 1970s. With his otherworldly falsetto and futuristic attire, Klaus was unlike anyone else. But who was the man behind the makeup? Born Klaus Sperber in Immenstadt, Germany in 1944, he grew up idolizing opera divas and dreaming of a life on stage. Moving to New York City in the early 70s, Klaus immersed himself in the vibrant downtown scene. He combined opera, pop, and performance art into a spectacle that was both bizarre and mesmerizing. Remember his iconic performance with David Bowie on Saturday Night Live in 1979? That was Klaus, pushing boundaries and redefining art. But as his star was rising, Klaus faced a hidden struggle. He was diagnosed with AIDS at a time when the disease was a mystery wrapped in fear. On August 6, 1983, Klaus Nomi passed away at just 39 years old, becoming one of the first celebrities to succumb to the disease. Sylvester. Do you feel that electric jolt when You Make Me Feel Mighty Real comes on? That's the magic of Sylvester, the flamboyant disco legend who turned dance floors into sanctuaries of freedom and self-expression. But who was Sylvester beyond the glitter and high notes? Born Sylvester James Jr. in Los Angeles in 1947, he grew up singing gospel in church, a foundation that would infuse his music with soulful depth. Moving to San Francisco's Castro district, Sylvester embraced the LGBTQ+ community, becoming a fixture in the drag scene with the Cockettes. His androgynous style and soaring falsetto broke barriers, challenging societal norms at every turn. Sylvester's hits like Dance, Disco, Heat weren't just songs, they were anthems of liberation. He wasn't afraid to be himself, and he encouraged others to do the same. But in the mid-1980s, Sylvester was diagnosed with HIV. Instead of retreating, he used his platform to raise awareness, becoming one of the few public figures to speak openly about the disease at the time. On December 16, 1988, Sylvester passed away at the age of 41 due to AIDS-related complications. Merritt Butrick. Do you remember the rebellious son of Captain Kirk in Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan in Star Trek III, The Search for Spock? That was Merritt Butrick, a young actor whose star was on the rise in the 1980s. But what happened to this promising talent whose life was cut tragically short? Merritt was born on September 3, 1959, in Gainesville, Florida. He moved to California to pursue acting, quickly landing a role in the TV sitcom Square Pegs alongside Sarah Jessica Parker. His portrayal of the quirky Johnny Slash made him a fan favorite. But it was his role as David Marcus, Captain Kirk's son, that cemented his place in the hearts of Star Trek fans worldwide. Behind the scenes, Merritt was known for his dedication to his craft and his warm personality. He kept his personal life private, focusing on building a diverse portfolio of work that included both television and film. In the mid-1980s, Merritt began experiencing health issues that he kept away from the public eye. On March 17, 1989, he passed away at just 29 years old due to AIDS-related complications. His untimely death shocked fans and colleagues alike. Star Trek co-star William Shatner dedicated his book Star Trek Movie Memories to Merritt, highlighting the impact he had in his short life. Liberace. Liberace, there's a name that instantly brings to mind glittering rhinestones, grand pianos, and a showman like no other. But did you know this larger-than-life performer led a deeply private life off stage, one that ended tragically with AIDS? Born Vlaju Valentino Liberace in 1919, he was one of the most flamboyant entertainers of his time. With his elaborate costumes, candelabra-adorned pianos, and dazzling charisma, Liberace captivated audiences around the world, becoming one of the highest-paid performers of the 1950s and 60s. Yet, despite his flamboyant public persona, Liberace spent his life denying the persistent rumors about his sexuality. In 1986, after years of extravagant performances, his health began to decline. Liberace was diagnosed with HIV, but kept it hidden from the public, continuing to perform until just months before his death. He passed away on February 4, 1987, at the age of 67 from AIDS-related pneumonia. His death shocked his fans, many of whom had no idea he was ill. Lauro Corona. Have you ever heard of Lauro Corona, the Brazilian heartthrob who captivated telenovela audiences in the 1980s? His story is one of rising fame and a life interrupted too soon. Let's delve into the journey of this beloved actor. Born on July 6, 1957, in Rio de Janeiro, Lauro was destined for the spotlight. He began his career as a model before transitioning to acting, quickly becoming a fixture on Brazilian television. With his striking good looks and undeniable charm, he starred in popular telenovelas like Elas por Elas and Direito de Amar, winning over fans across the country. Lauro was known not just for his acting skills, but also for his kindness and professionalism on set. Despite his growing fame, he remained humble and dedicated to his craft. However, in the late 1980s, rumors began to circulate about his health. Lauro was diagnosed with AIDS, a fact he chose to keep private due to the stigma surrounding the disease at the time. On July 20, 1989, Lauro Corona passed away at the age of 32 from AIDS-related complications. Paul Shenar. Do you recall the commanding presence of Alejandro Sosa in the iconic film Scarface? That was Paul Shenar, an actor whose deep voice and intense performances left a lasting impression. But who was the man behind the memorable roles? Born on February 12, 1936 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Paul Shenar's passion for acting took him from local theater to the international stage. He was one of the founding members of the American Conservatory Theater in San Francisco, where he honed his craft and mentored younger actors. His move to Hollywood opened doors to roles in both television and film. Paul's portrayal of real-life figures like Orson Welles in The Night That Panicked America showcased his versatility. However, it was his role as the menacing drug lord in Scarface that etched his name in cinematic history. Off-screen, Paul was a private individual. While he was openly gay among friends and colleagues, he maintained a low profile in the public eye. In the late 1980s, Paul was diagnosed with AIDS. Despite his illness, he continued to work, demonstrating remarkable strength and dedication. Paul Shenar passed away on October 11, 1989, at the age of 53. John Holmes. John Holmes was one of the most infamous figures in the adult film industry. But did you know his life took a tragic and controversial turn because of AIDS? Holmes's life story is one of fame, scandal, and a dark downfall. Holmes became one of the most recognizable faces in adult entertainment in the 1970s and early 1980s, known for his roles in over 2,500 films. But his life was far from glamorous. Behind the scenes, he struggled with drug addiction and became embroiled in the 1981 Wonderland murders, where he was acquitted but remained a suspect. By the mid-1980s, Holmes's career and health began to deteriorate, and in 1986, he was diagnosed with HIV. Despite this diagnosis, Holmes continued working in adult films, concealing his illness. Holmes passed away on March 13, 1988, at the age of 43, from AIDS-related complications. His death and the revelation that he had continued acting while knowing he was HIV positive sparked outrage and brought attention to the ethical responsibilities within the adult film industry. John Holmes's life, filled with controversy, left a lasting impact on discussions about AIDS, personal accountability, and the adult film world. Ian Charleson, have you ever been inspired by a performance that felt truly transcendent? That's the effect Ian Charleson had as Eric Liddell in Chariots of Fire. But there's much more to his story, a tale of immense talent, courage, and a life that, while brief, was incredibly impactful. Born on August 11, 1949 in Edinburgh, Scotland, Ian was not just an actor but also a gifted singer. He attended the University of Edinburgh before training at the London Academy of Music and Dramatic Art. His stage work was lauded, with standout performances in productions like Guys and Dolls and Hamlet. Ian's portrayal of the devout Scottish runner in Chariots of Fire brought him international acclaim. The film won 4 Academy Awards, and Ian's performance was central to its success. He continued to shine on stage and screen, working with the Royal Shakespeare Company and starring in films like Gandhi. In 1986, Ian was diagnosed with HIV. Demonstrating incredible bravery, he continued to perform, including taking on the demanding role of Hamlet at the National Theatre while battling the disease. Ian chose to keep his diagnosis private until the very end, hoping to be remembered for his work rather than his illness. Ian Charleson passed away on January 6, 1990, at the age of 40. Ryan White. Do you remember the name Ryan White? In the 1980s, this young boy became the face of HIV/AIDS in America, not by choice, but through his courage and resilience in the face of adversity. His story changed hearts and minds across the nation. Born on December 6, 1971, in Kokomo, Indiana, Ryan was diagnosed with hemophilia, a condition that required frequent blood transfusions. In 1984, at just 13 years old, he was diagnosed with HIV after receiving contaminated blood, a time when little was known about the disease. When his school barred him from attending due to fears of transmission, Ryan and his mother fought back, initiating a legal battle that drew national attention. Ryan faced discrimination and fear from his community, but he remained steadfast. He became a spokesperson for AIDS education, dispelling myths and humanizing those affected by the disease. His bravery caught the attention of celebrities like Elton John and Michael Jackson, who befriended him and supported his cause. Tragically, Ryan White passed away on April 8, 1990, at the age of 18. His death occurred just months before Congress passed the Ryan White Care Act, which provided funding for HIV/AIDS patients, a lasting legacy of his impact. Rock Hudson. Rock Hudson was the epitome of the Hollywood leading man, handsome, tall, and charismatic. But do you know what made him an unexpected pioneer in the fight against AIDS? His death was a turning point for public awareness of the disease. Born Roy Harold Scherer Jr. in 1925, Hudson rose to fame in the 1950s with films like Magnificent Obsession and Pillow Talk, becoming one of Hollywood's top box office stars. For years, he maintained the image of a straight, romantic leading man, even though rumors about his sexuality persisted within Hollywood circles. In 1984, Hudson was diagnosed with AIDS but kept it private for as long as he could, fearing the backlash. However, by 1985, when his health visibly declined, the truth became public. Hudson's publicist confirmed his diagnosis on July 25, 1985, making him the first major celebrity to go public with AIDS. His bravery in the face of stigma gave the disease a face, sparking a global conversation about HIV/AIDS. Just months later, on October 2, 1985, Hudson passed away at the age of 59 from AIDS-related complications. Tom Fogerty. Do you remember the classic rock sound of Creedence Clearwater Revival? Tom Fogerty was the rhythm guitarist who helped drive that unforgettable beat. But what happened to Tom after the band parted ways? Let's explore the life of this talented musician whose story ended too soon. Born on November 9, 1941, in Berkeley, California, Tom was the older brother of John Fogerty, the band's lead singer. Together they created hits like Proud Mary and Bad Moon Rising, defining a generation of rock music. However, tensions within the band led to Tom's departure in 1971. He pursued a solo career, but it never quite reached the heights of CCR's success. In the 1980s, Tom faced serious health issues. He underwent back surgery and, tragically, received a blood transfusion tainted with HIV, a time when blood screening for the virus was not yet standard practice. Tom chose to keep his diagnosis private, focusing on his family and music. On September 6, 1990, he passed away at the age of 48 due to AIDS-related tuberculosis. Tom Fogerty's death was a significant loss to the music world. While his brother John continued to perform, the rift between them remained unresolved at the time of Tom's passing. Kevin Peter Hall, have you ever been amazed by the towering figure of the Predator in the classic sci-fi films? That was Kevin Peter Hall bringing life to the iconic creature. But who was the man behind the mask, and what led to his untimely death? Let's uncover the story of this remarkable actor. Born on May 9, 1955 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Kevin stood at an impressive 7 feet 2 inches tall. His height made him a natural choice for roles requiring a larger-than-life presence. After college basketball, he turned to acting, landing roles in films like Prophecy and Without Warning. However, it was his portrayal of the Predator in the 1987 film alongside Arnold Schwarzenegger that made him a legend. He also starred as Harry in Harry and the Hendersons, showcasing his ability to convey emotion even under heavy makeup and costumes. In 1990, Kevin was involved in a car accident and required a blood transfusion. Unbeknownst to him, the blood was contaminated with HIV. He continued to work, appearing in the TV series Harry and the Hendersons, but his health began to decline. Kevin passed away on April 10, 1991, at the age of 35 due to AIDS-related pneumonia. Brad Davis. Do you recall the intense performance of Billy Hayes in Midnight Express? That was Brad Davis, an actor who poured everything into his roles. But what was the cost of such dedication, and what struggles did he face off-screen? Let's delve into the life of Brad Davis, a talent gone too soon. Born on November 6, 1949 in Tallahassee, Florida, Brad grew up in a troubled household but found solace in acting. His breakthrough came with Midnight Express in 1978, earning him a Golden Globe for New Star of the Year. His portrayal of a man imprisoned in Turkey was raw and gripping, catapulting him to international fame. Despite his success, Brad battled personal demons, including substance abuse. In 1985, he was diagnosed with HIV, a fact he and his wife, Susan Bluestein, kept secret due to the stigma surrounding the disease. Brad continued to work in theater and film, refusing to let his illness define him. In a bold move, he chose to end his life on September 8, 1991, at the age of 41, through assisted suicide to escape the late stages of AIDS. Brad Davis's death sparked conversations about AIDS, addiction, and the right to die with dignity. His wife later revealed his struggle in the book After Midnight, The Life and Death of Brad Davis, shedding light on the challenges he faced. Denholm Elliott. Do you remember Marcus Brody, the endearing museum curator in the Indiana Jones films? That was Denholm Elliott, a British actor whose versatility made him a cherished figure in cinema. But did you know about the trials he faced later in life? Let's explore the journey of this remarkable performer. Born on May 31, 1922 in London, Denholm's acting career spanned over 4 decades. He appeared in more than 120 films and television programs, including Trading Places and A Room with a View, for which he won a BAFTA award. Denholm was known for his ability to embody a wide range of characters, from comedic roles to dramatic performances. Denholm served in the Royal Air Force during World War II and was even a prisoner of war. These experiences added depth to his craft. In his personal life, he was married twice and had 2 children. Denholm was bisexual, a fact he kept private due to the societal norms of his time. In the late 1980s, Denholm was diagnosed with HIV. He continued to work despite his illness, showing incredible dedication to his art. On October 6, 1992, he passed away at the age of 70 from AIDS-related tuberculosis at his home in Ibiza, Spain. Arthur Ashe. Have you ever been inspired by a sports figure who broke barriers both on and off the court? Arthur Ashe was not just a tennis champion, but also a humanitarian and activist. Let's delve into the life of this remarkable man whose influence extended far beyond tennis. Born on July 10th, 1943 in Richmond, Virginia, Arthur grew up in the segregated South. He picked up a tennis racket at 7 and quickly showed promise. Ashe became the first African-American man to win the U.S. Open in 1968 and Wimbledon in 1975. His grace, skill, and sportsmanship made him a global icon. Off the court, Arthur was a vocal advocate for civil rights, education, and the fight against apartheid in South Africa. He used his platform to address social injustices, earning respect worldwide. In 1979, he suffered a heart attack, leading to multiple surgeries. During a blood transfusion in 1983, Arthur contracted HIV, a time when the virus was not well understood. Ashe kept his diagnosis private until 1992, when he chose to go public after a newspaper threatened to reveal his condition. He founded the Arthur Ashe Foundation for the Defeat of AIDS, dedicating his remaining time to raising awareness and funds for research. On February 6, 1993, Arthur Ashe passed away at the age of 49 from AIDS-related pneumonia. Eazy-E. Did you know that Eazy-E, the legendary rapper who founded NWA, is often called the godfather of gangsta rap? His hard-hitting lyrics and unapologetic style revolutionized hip-hop, but his life came to a shocking end due to a disease he hadn't publicly discussed. Let's dive into his story. Born Eric Wright in Compton, California, Eazy-E came from the streets, turning his experiences into powerful music. As the driving force behind NWA, he helped create iconic tracks like Straight Outta Compton that brought the realities of gang life into mainstream culture. But despite his musical success, Eazy-E's personal life was filled with challenges. In February 1995, Eazy was hospitalized, initially thinking he had asthma, but was diagnosed with AIDS. The revelation shocked fans and the entire music world. Unlike many public figures of his time, Eazy-E chose to speak openly about his diagnosis before his death, using his platform to raise awareness about the disease. On March 26, 1995, just a month after his diagnosis, he passed away from AIDS-related complications at the age of 30. His sudden death was a wake-up call, especially for the hip-hop community, where the stigma surrounding HIV/AIDS was immense. Eazy-E's legacy lives on through his music and his decision to speak out about AIDS, sparking important conversations in a culture that often shied away from such topics. Michael Callen. Have you ever heard of Michael Callen, the voice that became a beacon of hope during the darkest days of the AIDS crisis? Let's delve into the life of this remarkable singer, songwriter, and activist who used his talent to make a difference. Born on April 11, 1955 in Indiana, Michael moved to New York City to chase his musical dreams. Little did he know, he'd become a pioneering figure in AIDS activism. Diagnosed with AIDS in 1982, when the disease was barely understood and highly stigmatized, Michael didn't let fear silence him. Instead, he became one of the first openly gay men with AIDS to speak out, turning his personal battle into a public crusade. Michael co-authored How to Have Sex in an Epidemic, One Approach, one of the first guides promoting safe sex practices, a groundbreaking move that undoubtedly saved lives. As a founding member of the a cappella group, The Flirtations, his music carried messages of love, resilience, and equality. Songs like Living in Wartime and Love Don't Need a Reason weren't just melodies. They were anthems for a community under siege. Despite his declining health, Michael continued to perform and advocate tirelessly. He passed away on December 27, 1993, at the age of 38. Bowery. Imagine walking into a club and seeing someone whose very appearance challenges everything you thought you knew about fashion and art. That was Bowery, a living, breathing work of art. Do you know the story behind this enigmatic figure who turned heads in London's underground scene? Born in Sunshine, Australia, on March 26, 1961, Lee moved to London in the early 1980s with a mission to redefine performance art and fashion. And redefine he did. With his outrageous costumes, bold makeup, and theatrical performances, Lee became the heart of the avant-garde scene. He wasn't just dressing up, he was making a statement, pushing boundaries of gender, identity, and aesthetics. Lee opened the legendary nightclub Taboo, which became a haven for creative souls and a hotspot for counterculture expression. His collaborations with artists like Lucian Freud, who painted several portraits of him, further cemented his influence in the art world. Behind the flamboyance, Lee was a kind and thoughtful individual, deeply committed to his art and friends. In 1994, Lee's vibrant life was cut short when he passed away on New Year's Eve due to AIDS-related complications. He was just 33. But even in death, Lee continued to inspire. Rick Aviles. Do you recall the chilling villain in the movie Ghost who sent shivers down your spine? That was Rick Aviles, an actor and comedian whose talent brought depth to every role he played. But who was Rick beyond the characters he portrayed? Born on October 14, 1952, in New York City, Rick grew up in the vibrant streets of Manhattan, absorbing the city's energy. He began his career as a stand-up comedian, performing in Greenwich Village nightclubs where he honed his sharp wit and engaging style. His big break came with roles in films like The Cannonball Run and Carlito's Way. But it was his portrayal of Willie Lopez in Ghost, 1990, that left a lasting impression. Rick's performance as the antagonist added a layer of intensity to the film, showcasing his ability to delve into complex characters. Off-screen, he was known for his humor and warmth, a stark contrast to some of his on-screen personas. However, Rick faced personal challenges, including issues with substance abuse. Tragically, Rick Aviles passed away on March 17, 1995, at the age of 42 due to AIDS-related complications. His death was a loss to the entertainment world, cutting short a career that still had so much potential. Bobby DeBarge. Have you ever been captivated by a voice that seems to touch your soul? That's the kind of impact Bobby DeBarge had with his falsetto vocals in the band Switch. But what happened to this talented musician whose life was as tumultuous as it was brilliant? Born on March 5, 1956 in Detroit, Michigan, Bobby was the eldest of the musical DeBarge family. Growing up in a household filled with music, it was no surprise that Bobby and his siblings formed bands that would leave a mark on R&B. With hits like There'll Never Be and I Call Your Name, Switch, led by Bobby's incredible voice, soared up the charts in the late 1970s. However, behind the scenes, Bobby struggled with personal demons. A troubled childhood and the pressures of fame led him down a path of drug addiction. His battle with heroin not only affected his career, but also his health. In the 1980s, Bobby was incarcerated on drug trafficking charges, a period he later reflected on as a time of deep regret. In 1988, Bobby was diagnosed with HIV, which progressed to AIDS. He kept his illness private, sharing it only with close family members. Bobby DeBarge passed away on August 16, 1995, at the age of 39. His death was a profound loss to the music world. Robin Crosby. Do you remember cranking up the volume to Round and Round and feeling the electrifying riffs that defined 80s glam metal? That was Robin Crosby, the lead guitarist of Rat, whose talent helped shape a genre. But do you know the story behind the rock star facade? Born on August 4, 1959, in La Jolla, California, Robin grew up with a passion for music. He co-founded Rat in the early 1980s, and their debut album, Out of the Cellar, catapulted them to fame. With platinum records and sold-out tours, Robin lived the quintessential rock and roll lifestyle. However, the pressures of fame took their toll. Robin struggled with heroin addiction, a battle he openly discussed in hopes of helping others avoid the same path. In 1994, he was diagnosed with HIV, which later progressed to AIDS. Despite his health issues, Robin remained positive and continued to inspire others with his candidness about his struggles. Robin Crosby passed away on June 6, 2002, at the age of 42, due to complications from AIDS and other health issues. His death was a sobering moment for the music community. Robin's honesty about his life served as a cautionary tale and a beacon of hope for recovery and self-acceptance.